Hey, friends. This is Martine Williams, and I am obsessed with all things mompreneur life and helping you to remix your priorities, your habits, your mindsets, and yes, even your relationships so that you can build a successful business without losing yourself in the process. I'm also obsessed with the color turquoise and lyrics of the 80s and 90s, but that's beside the point. Girlfriend, you don't have to hustle 24/7, 365 and continue to sacrifice your health, your relationships, and your sanity to be a successful mompreneur. As a small town girl living in a lonely world to a six-figure mompreneur, I am here to teach you how. There is a better way, and this podcast is your one-stop shop for all of the how-tos, the encouragement, the life hacks, the success tips, and of course, a little side of tough love. This is the Mompreneur Life Remixed podcast. So let's do this. Welcome back, friends. I'm so excited to bring back our Turquoise Talk episodes. This month, we are going to be doing some specific episodes to help you as a direct seller, social seller, network marketer, whatever title that you have for your business. And so much of what we do as mompreneurs with online businesses is social selling. So whether you have your own boutique, I think you will benefit for sure from these episodes. So my first guest I'm super excited about is Rachel Perry. And Rachel is a network marketing business coach, host of the Direct Sellers podcast, and international speaker. She is the creator of two programs, Wealth and Worth Legacy Builders, which is a coaching membership designed to help network marketers build consistent, profitable, and sustainable businesses, and Direct Seller to CEO, which is a high-level coaching program for direct sellers who are ready to take the leap from network marketing into building a business online. Rachel's passion is helping network marketers discover their worth so they can build their wealth in both life and business. When she's not helping women achieve their business goals, Rachel can be found at Target, traveling with her 3 kids and husband, or on the Instagram stories, sharing the comedic reality of being a working mom. Like, she's super funny, y'all. You will get to see that in this episode. You can find Rachel's tips, business advice, and inspiration at rachelperry.com and on the Direct Sellers podcast. Y'all, this episode is so good, so juicy, and maybe even a little controversial with how she is seeing the market shift and what's working and what's not. So grab your pen, grab a piece of paper, and let's do this. Well, welcome back, friends, to the Mompreneur Life Remixed podcast. I am so excited that today is episode 51, and I'm bringing back Turquoise Talks. I think it's been since June since I had a guest here on the podcast, and I know a lot of you that follow the podcast and follow me on social media are in direct selling and social selling, and so I decided to do a series just for you moving into the fall selling season because this is our busiest season. And so I'm really excited to have Rachel Perry with us today. Thank you so much for being here. Like, this is so fun.
I'm so happy to be here.
And it's episode 51. So I'm really excited about that. Yeah, it is crazy.
I'm so proud of you. I'm thrilled. That sounds like condescending. I didn't mean it to, but I'm just so proud of you because I remember when you started this.
Yeah. And I'm like, is this really going to last?
Uh-huh. And it is.
It is. So thank you all for continuing to show up for the podcast and show up for me. And Rachel, we met, I don't know how many years ago we met, but I've loved watching your journey to evolve as a mompreneur. And so kind of tell, for those of you people that don't know Rachel Perry, which I don't know how you don't know Rachel Perry, you be following her on social media because she's a hoot and, just so much knowledge. But tell us a little bit about you, your family, and why you decided to become a mompreneur.
I never thought I would be a mompreneur, to be honest. I have 3 kids. I've been married for 25 years this December. And I used to teach. Like, I taught for 9 years, and then I had my son, and then I was like, I'm out. Bye. And I thought, I'm just going to stay at home and, be a Pinterest mom. And turns out I'm not a Pinterest mom, and I don't do great at being a stay-at-home mom either. Like, that's not my jam. Nothing against anyone whose jam it is, but it just, I have to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and that's when I fell into my direct sales business. I started selling jewelry and then did that for like 5 years, and then teamed up with my then partner, Amanda, and we built the tag team, and we taught direct sellers how to party on Facebook in 30 minutes. And now I'm coaching direct sellers how to build consistent, profitable, and sustainable businesses, because the direct sales industry has changed in the 15 years that I've been in it. And I think that's how you become consistent. That's how you grow. That's how you grow these businesses that actually work. I mean, you and I are proof of that, right? It's not just, a pyramid scheme or what everyone says.
Right.
They're amazing, and they're amazing ways to get started. So that's how I became a mompreneur, when I started my direct sales business, never, ever, ever would I have thought that I would have built a couple of businesses in addition to that. Never. It just was never on my radar.
Right. Yeah. And it's just amazing to watch. And I think that's why I love bringing on different guests here on the shows, because everybody has a story, and the impact of your story is great. And especially those of us that have had kind of a front row seat of watching you kind of evolve and helping other people too. And we're going to talk for sure in just a little bit about some of the changes that you're seeing in the direct sale industry, because it is ever changing. I feel like we've had a huge shift in the last, 2-3 years. Like it's just,
I would agree.
And now it's like, what was working before is not working. So y'all hang tight. We're going to get into that in just a few minutes. But as you have grown your businesses, there's always a mess before the success. And sometimes people just see that highlight reel, right? Like, oh, she's just an overnight success, or she's done this. But I think it's really helpful because there's someone who's listening right now that's probably in the beginning stages of building their business. And so what were some of the messes that happened?
Oh my gosh. That's a really good question. I would have to agree. So I have a program called Direct Seller CEO, and I teach, because so often being in direct sales, network marketing, social selling, whatever you say, is often a jumping off point, as you know, to start your own business. So many entrepreneurs start in network marketing.
Right.
And you and I both did. So anyway, we were having this conversation this is why I brought it up, in a coaching call yesterday, in fact.
Yeah.
And there are just so many messes when you start out your business. It's just sometimes, I think for me, figuring out my messaging, figuring out who am I speaking, not just who am I speaking to, but what am I speaking? And what are the struggles that my ideal customer has? And you think and then you keep going and you're like, wait, I know I had that totally wrong. It has literally taken me 3 years to really fine tune this messaging. So I think that's probably one. And when I say messaging, I mean, but for the listeners, just like, what are you sharing? Who are you? What is the value that you're bringing to people? What are you trying to teach them? And it doesn't matter if you are a direct seller or if you are an online business owner or if you're a brick and mortar, like there is a service that you offer. What is it? And it's more than just selling your product.
Right.
So I think that was probably one of the biggest messes. For a long time, I felt like I was just wading through this, like quicksand almost. It just was heavy. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And
how many times have we said that over the years? I don't know what I'm doing.
I don't know what I'm doing. Have I questioned God many, like, are you sure? Did I read you right, God? Like, was that did you really want me here? For real. So I still, in fact, today have been questioning the same thing, but I think the key is to just keep going. Even when you're like, I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't know if this is the right thing. You just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And eventually you figure these things out. So I would say that the messes are probably, there have been a lot of them, right? Messy times when you're like, what?
Right.
But it's the fact that you just keep going and you don't quit, even when you're absolutely clueless and you're wading through this muddy, like you just feel so heavy because you don't know where you're going. You just keep going.
Well, action brings clarity, and if we are just keep moving forward, even when it's, like you said, just so muddy, but our messes become our messages. And because you've been through that, and there's probably some other messes too. There's a lot. It's messy. Business is messy a lot of times, especially in the beginning, but now you're able to share that with someone and make them feel like, okay, it's not just me. And so I hope that whoever's listening today can, if that's an area that you're struggling or whatever your mess is, just keep moving forward and know that there is light at the end of that tunnel. And there are people like Rachel who can help you.
Well, and I also think that it gets messier before it gets easier, right? So I think sometimes if you're feeling really overwhelmed and things are super messy and uncomfortable and things just don't seem to be, it just doesn't make sense. You could very well be on the cusp of something big, right? It's just that you just don't give up.
Right. And ask for the help that you need. So I always like to ask this question because there's different personalities of mompreneurs and how they run their day. But I know you have one that's at home, you're homeschooling. We were just talking about that before we hit record. So what's like your typical day? How do you set yourself up for success? And do you have any like simple systems or routines that you're like, this is what helps me get through, the role, all the roles that you play, all the hats that we wear?
Yeah. No. Nope, got nothing.
My kind of girl. Just saying. I'm kidding.
No, to be honest, I wish that I could say, here's the strategy that I use and it's worked so well for me and it works so well for my students. I can't say that because I'm a fly by the seat of my pants kind of a person. And unfortunately, that isn't great when you are homeschooling a child, which is the new development. That was never anything that I thought was going to happen. But I'm homeschooling Caroline for another year. And I have had to set some kind of a schedule. And so from 9 to 11 every day, because my youngest goes to school at 9. So from 9 to 11, we do homeschool. Okay. And then I have time from 11 to about 3 to work. Honestly, my goal is to only have to work 3 days a week, like we did with the tag team.
Right.
That hasn't happened yet, but I think really it comes down to efficiency. So what I'm finding is I do better in the afternoon anyway when I work. My juices are flowing and I do better then. So I try to plan the work the content creation space happens in the afternoon because I know that that's when I'm a little bit more alert.
Right.
And then I have my coaching calls in the morning and I don't really know if that means that I'm not alert. That's not what I mean. Like, I'm not here, y'all, but let's do a coaching call. So that's what works for me. But you know what? I could work all day, every day if I want, if I had the time because it's there and I love what I do. And so I have to really put time. I have to put restrictions on myself because it's not good. That's not healthy. So I don't have an amazing system that I can share, but that's just what works for me.
Well, and that's the key right there. What works for you? Some people need to have that, every minute of the day scheduled in. Others need that flexibility to be creative. So I think if you're trying something, give it enough time to work. If it's not working, then stop and try something different. There could be a whole podcast on all the different planners that are out there. And, everybody has their favorite. And some of us are like, you know what? I have 10 and I don't really know what's going on that day.
Exactly.
One for the kids and one for my business and all of that.
Exactly.
So, you just have to find what works for you. But, thank you for sharing that because I do think it's good for people to know. You don't have to have all that structure all the time, but you do need to have a little bit because I know the years that I've coached women is the ones who don't have any guardrails around their time. Those are the ones that end up in burnout. There's the ones their relationships suffer. They're suffering in their own self-care. So you do have to set those start and stop times.
Yeah, that's so true.
In your business. And sometimes I remember when I was early on in the business, working in the nooks and crannies of time where my kids were napping. Yeah. Like that was the only time that I had, so that's okay. That's okay. You can get it done. Okay. So we just mentioned burnout and I love to ask this question. Have you ever experienced burnout? And if you have, how did it present itself in your life? Like what were some of the things you were feeling? Maybe physical, maybe emotional. And then how did you work your way out of it? So that's really 3 questions.
For sure. I have 100% experienced burnout. And sometimes it sneaks up on me because I'm so focused on the business and it's all because of my business. Because I haven't had the boundaries in place where I have to recognize like, Rach, it's time to step away. It's time to move away. Or it's when I've started, I have all these deadlines that I've created for myself where I'm like, I'm going to do this project. I'm going to do this project. I'm going to do this project. And then it's just so much. So last summer, for sure, I think I came into September and I was already burnt out because I hustled so much that summer. And then I pushed myself even more to go through the fall. And honestly, I was just not happy. I was just so burnt out. I was tired. I wasn't a great mom. It's not me. I'm a great mom, but I just mean I wasn't doing what I wanted to do. And so I decided then I was like, this summer, like next summer, I am not working. Like I will work as a minimal amount, but I am not going to hustle like I used to, like I did last year. So this summer I did not work out or I did not work. to the degree that I did before. I really had very strong boundaries. When my kids wanted to go to the pool, I was like, yep, let's go. Dropped what I was doing. I just made it so that I could do that. And I will 100% do that again, because not only was I allowing myself to be totally present with my kids, it also gave me this space that I needed to just think. So for me, the way I get creative is to just think. And normally we don't have, in our schedules, our daily schedule, we don't have that space to just think. And for me, I just have to sit there. It sounds terrible, but I just have to, well, actually, it doesn't sound terrible. I have to sit and do nothing.
Right.
So like just to think, and it can be 20 minutes, it can be 30 minutes. It doesn't have to be very long, but I just need that space to think. And I remember my dad was like this or is like this. And I never understood. I was like, Dad, what? Like, I don't even understand that. Like, you want to go to the symphony?
We got too much work to do to be sitting.
Yeah. I'm like, who has time for that? But now I get it. And I think recognizing that for me to be creative and for me to be my best self, I have to give myself space to think. So this summer, when we went to the beach, I just sat on the deck and I read and I just thought, or when we went to the lake, I let myself just be. And I think that's something that I've learned helps me prevent the burnout. It helps me stay happy and excited about what I'm doing. And it just fuels me in a way that working does not do. So, I think it's just important to know, where do you feel your best when it comes to your business? Where are you the happiest? When do you get excited? And to recognize that you got to take a break from it sometimes.
Right.
You got to give yourself that space.
And do you find like bring a notebook and like are taking out, like as you're thinking the thoughts, are you just really just sitting?
I really am just thinking, I know, I don't. But I will say, like, I'll get inspired because that's what it is, right? We want to get inspiration. And that's where that thinking is. It's just kind of letting yourself go through, allowing yourself to go down the rabbit holes. Right. And when I do that, if I'll usually have my phone next to me. And so I'll write down an idea in notes, but I actually don't take a notebook or anything. And I don't do it that often. But when I do, I remember the first time I figured out that this is what my brain needed was someone was like, listen, I was dealing with some stuff and she was like, go for a walk, go to a place where it's quiet and just write down all your thoughts. And so I went to this park and it was the fall and it was in the middle of the day. So no one was there. And I just listened to like praise music and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so inspirational just to be in nature and to just have nothing but my thoughts. And it was then that I realized like, this is a key piece. And, as moms, it's like, when are you going to have time for that? When do you have time for that? Yeah. But I think even just at the end of the day, like when I let my dogs outside, I sit outside and for 10 minutes, and I just kind of let myself reflect. That I get so much energy from that. And it really is, it's what's worked for me.
Well, I think sometimes moms can get into that all or nothing mentality where like, well, if I don't have an hour to devote to sitting back at the pool or whatever, then what's the point? But just 15 minutes of recharging your battery and of turning off the machine that is your brain. Because if you're an entrepreneur, you're constantly thinking, trying to constantly think of ways to grow the business, constantly trying to think of ways to, the marketing. And there's so many things to think about as an entrepreneur, which is why we need each other that we can lean on when we're in those moments. You said someone guided you and told you to go and do that. Don't suffer in silence. There are plenty of us out here who have been in that season, and that can speak to that, which is why I like to ask that question. But you have to find your thing, whatever it is. For you, it is the silence. And if you've never done that, I know you'll probably attest this. It's completely awkward the first time you do it. You're like, this is weird. I'm literally just sitting here alone with my thoughts.
I should be doing something. Yeah.
Your default is going to be to do, but God made us human beings, not human doing. So sometimes you have to sit back and just be, and then you can hear from him, you can worship, you can do whatever, and then leave just with your tank filled out. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. Mom guilt. Is this?
Oh my gosh. Like, is there ever a moment that I don't have mom guilt?
Well, how do you overcome it? When you're feeling that way, how do you overcome it?
That's a really good question. Well, I have to pull myself up out of it. It's almost like I physically have to like pull myself up. Like how cats do, or dog, like when they're puppies and they pull
them up by the scruff.
Yeah. I'm like, that's almost like what I have to do to myself. It's like, I have to get out, like look down and be like, Rachel, let's stop that. Because I struggle with anxiety for sure.
Okay.
And mom guilt, that's when I wake up in the middle of the night. That's what I'm worrying about is my kids. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I think there's a lot of forgiveness that has to go into it and recognition. Like, you know what? I'm not a perfect mom. There's no perfect mom out there. God chose me for my children. I'm doing the best that I can.
Right.
But something I will say that I'm learning. So my mom was not like an apologizer. And so, she never apologized. And I love my mom dearly. Like she's an amazing woman.
Yeah.
Amazing. But apologies it was us apologizing to her. Right. And they weren't necessarily received. Right. Because she'd still be angry or whatever. At least that's how I perceived it. It might not have been that way at all. She sounds like terrible. She's really
she does not. No, I get it.
But anyway, I wanted my kids to feel, I want them to see that I'm not perfect. Right. And so we have these conversations if they feel wronged or whatever, we'll have these conversations. So John Mark the other day, he's my 16-year-old. He's like, Mom, I sometimes feel like you're a hypocrite. And I was like, oh my God, that hurt. Like that really hurt. Right. Like all I do is the very best for you guys. I didn't say that, but in my head, I'm like, all I do is the best. And I said, okay, let's talk about this.
Right.
Why do you feel like I'm a hypocrite? He's like, oh, of course I can't think about it. Anyway, he thought about it and he came back and he was like, here's why. And I actually don't even remember. He said, here's why. I think it was something about I tell them they can't yell, like stop yelling.
As for yelling
thing, right? And so I said,
yelling moms unite.
Exactly. I said, but I'm sorry that you feel that way. And he was kind of talking like, why do we have to respect you when you don't respect us? That type of thing, right? Like 16-year-old.
Yeah. Oh drama. Yeah.
But I did say, I was like, listen, yeah, you're right. I'm a hypocrite. We all are hypocrites. I'm not going to project. I'm sorry that you feel that way. And I hate that I've made you feel like, less than or whatever I said.
Right.
But I think just the fact that we are able to have these open conversations, I'm not always apologizing to him. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But I do think it's important for us to recognize when we're not in the right. And I mean, it happens very rarely for me that I'm not in the right, but, as I would imagine for all of us.
Exactly.
But I do think that has opened the lines of communication, which has helped me with my mom guilt. But that, I mean, I wish I had a solution. I just literally, it's something for sure that I struggle with that I wish I didn't.
You're not alone. And I think there's seasons of it. And I think, like you said, just communication for me is really helpful. Having an open line communication with either them or, journaling. I was journaling the other morning. Something you said earlier, I can't remember what it is now, but mom brain was exactly what I was journaling about. Like, and I can't remember. It'll come back to me probably in just a minute. But I think we all struggle with mom guilt and burnout through seasons again, which is why it's helpful to have those people in your corner, right? To extend grace to you and help you to extend grace to yourself, and be like, okay. None of us are hitting it out of the ballpark every single day. Some of us are completely striking out, sometimes multiple times throughout the day.
Many, many times.
Yeah.
But I think another area that I struggled with mom guilt a lot when they were younger was traveling for business or going on a retreat with, other women in your mastermind or whatever it is. And now I still have that a little bit, but I also know that it's okay. My mom, or again with my mom, it'd be like, well,
mom's not going to listen to this episode.
I know. Like, how's Mark going to be is Mark okay with you leaving? And it's almost like there's this story that is handed down to us, like as women, you can work. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Like good for you. Good for you that you're building a business, but how does everyone else survive? Right. And I think that that's societal. Is that a word? Societal? The way it almost permeates, especially I think in the Christian community.
Right.
honestly.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to get all, you know.
No, I know what you're saying.
But
Yep.
but I do think that there's this view that does not help us as mompreneurs.
Right.
We're like fighting against it. But
yeah.
Do you enjoy this podcast and you're wondering how you can start your own? Well, you're in luck. We help entrepreneurs launch their podcast in 4 weeks. My name is Haley Murch, and my team and I manage this podcast. I'm a podcast expert who specializes in helping entrepreneurs launch their podcasts. Podcasts are a great way to expand your audience, provide a free resource for your audience, and to grow and monetize your business. We have openings this fall to help entrepreneurs start their podcasts. We would love to help you achieve this goal before the end of the year. Don't keep waiting. The podcast world needs your voice. We also offer support after the launch process to help maintain your podcast, and we do provide other services to current podcasters. If any of this sounds like something you want to do and need support with your podcast journey, please contact me at hello@haleymerch.com, HAILIMURCH.com, or see the links in the show notes to book a call. We cannot wait to help you start your podcast.
Well, one of the things that early on, and then we'll move on from mom guilt, was, number one, keeping evidence of the things I am doing with the kids. Because mine was always like, are they only seeing me work? But that's not true. They weren't. And they need to see that I'm working, because if they have dreams they want to build, they need to see they have to work for it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing was, like, if we would go out to dinner, or we would go just little things, go get donuts. My coach was like, just be like, thank you. Thank the business. Thank dad for his business. Thank mom for his business, because this is what's providing these things. And when you're reiterating that to them, you're also reiterating it back to yourself, and say, okay, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. So I can go pick them up from school, when I want to, or when I can, go drop off donuts if I want, or whatever. And so you just have to have those reminders. And honestly, I had to have visual reminders, because I'm a visual person, like pictures on my phone. I have a whole folder that's like evidence of what I'm doing.
Cool.
Really well.
I love that.
What I'm doing really well, because there are so many days I'm like, am I completely screwing my kids up? Like, completely.
You know what, though? I was so proud of my mom for working. I was like, my mom's awesome. Yeah. I just was so proud. Our kids are going to be the same.
Yep, they are. They are. They come back to us, they say. They get a little, as a teenager, and then they come back and they're sweet again.
Yeah. It's a little dicey there.
All right. So we said in the beginning that the industry is changing. And again, you and I both I'm no longer in the industry, but I still help a lot of people in the industry, 15, 16 years. And we've seen some changes. I mean, even with the Facebook parties, like that was a new shift, back in the day. It was like, whoever thought of holding a party on Facebook, and now it's changing again. So
it is.
Let's just say, I mean, you can list however many you want, but what's working really well right now for someone who's feeling that shift, maybe someone who's been in the business for 15 years and they're like, I don't even know what's going to work anymore. Like, what's happening? You know why it's happening?
Really,
like, why is there a shift? Is it just, do you think, because
I think it's always shifting. I think, you think about how direct sales was in the very beginning, and it was door to door. And then it was, home parties, and people use the phone to book I mean, it's always evolving.
Mm-hmm.
I think part of the problem with the direct sales industry is that people don't evolve with it. And, uplines are learning what their uplines did, and their uplines aren't evolving. And so we're still using strategies that are gross, that just they haven't evolved with the industry. Parties, for example, you mentioned Facebook parties. It was home parties before that. Like 15 years ago, I was doing home parties.
Yeah.
And they were great. And I rocked them out, and the sales were incredible. And it was amazing, but that's not how it is now. Sure. Maybe you're having parties and they're working for you. Maybe Facebook parties are still working for you. But I would say the big shift is probably away from parties, and hearing that parties, if you're being told parties are the only way to grow your business, that's just not true. Now, I think it's more focused on building a branding yourself beyond your company and beyond your product, because you're not your company and you're not your product. Right. And so thinking about the services and the value that you can offer your ideal customer, can you help them with organization? Can you help them feeling better about themselves? Can you help them discover whatever it is. I mean, think about it from the bigger picture. And I think that is part of the problem in this industry, is that we're focused on, let's sell products, sell, recruit, let's grow your team. And yes, those things are important. Obviously, that's why people start their own businesses, so they can make more money.
Right.
But I think when we are stuck in the old way of doing things, going door to door is not something that would work anymore. And it's the same for parties. So please don't hear me, if you're listening, and think, oh my gosh, she's saying parties don't work anymore, because that's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that I don't think that parties work the way they used to.
Right.
In fact, I know they don't. Right. So you've got to figure out, how do I brand myself? How am I more than just my company? How am I more? Because I'm not Rachel, the jewelry lady. I'm Rachel. Right. And I teach you how to style your favorite outfits. And I teach you how to feel better about yourself. And I teach you how to look put together, when this is what I used to do as a mom on the go. Those are all things that are more than just jewelry, but I sold the jewelry. So I think really thinking about who you are as a personal brand is what works big time. Obviously, social media is hugely big right now. And I think that's where the brand comes in, and teaching your ideal customer things that are important to them, solutions to problems that they have. Also, I mean, I'm kind of a big advocate of email marketing. Because but not emailing newsletters, and not just sending your company email, just really adding value, sharing tips, hacks, solutions to whatever problems your ideal customer has, that it goes beyond just your product.
Right.
So, I mean, that's kind of the, 2-minute version, but I think it's just important to recognize that change isn't always bad.
Right. Yeah.
Okay? And it's so important to kind of adapt. And I think so often we want to just stay with what has worked in the past. And that just leads to a lot of frustration because things don't work the way they used to. People have changed. We just got through like a global pandemic, right? Things have changed.
Yeah. How she buys is definitely changing.
Yeah. So I think that's just life, like social media, right? Social media is ever changing. And as a result, so is business. So I think just being aware of that and recognizing that the old ways, the cold messaging, the Facebook, adding people to Facebook groups. Remember that was a thing, all the things, like there are strategies that don't work anymore.
Right. Right. Well, and for those of you that listened to the last episode, I talked about this, evolving or revolving. And, if you're just going around in circles in that revolving door and you're frustrated, you have to evolve. Right. And there are things that are evolving. And if you don't evolve with it, then you are going to get left behind. And I think the struggle I remember right before, I kind of transitioned, out of 31 was home office being on board with some of the evolving, and wanting to kind of just stick to their grassroots of being maybe the party plan, and again, we're not saying you shouldn't do parties, but do you find that a lot of the women that you're coaching, they're struggling because the home office is messaging one thing or teaching one thing, and you're like over here going, that's not working.
100%. I'm nodding profusely. Yeah. It's that's the problem, is it comes from the top.
Yeah.
And a lot of these companies are, and the tippy top uplines, right? Sometimes because they're getting it from the top, are just, they're not. I remember the company that I was with was the same. It's like, you're stuck in 1985. You've got to come to 2000 and whatever it was.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that is part of the problem. That's why we've got to change from the inside out,
Right. Right. And I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know what they're, because they're learning from somebody else too, right? So, where is it coming from, and how can we all get on the same page? Because I do think, as we enter or in recession, I'm not going to go into all of that, but I remember that was when people were going for direct selling, so we're getting ready to come across that again. And they're going to need that quick way to get in and make some extra income. But if we're not ready for that surge because we have old tools and old methods then it's not going to work as well as it could, And so that's what I've been like, okay, who are the people that I can bring on that can kind of help get this message out, to be following those that you're seeing that are doing it really, really well and are evolving and shifting with the market. And
I think there's the higher ups. I mean, I don't know, but just from what I've observed, it's almost as if they haven't even been in the field. Right. So
Right.
they don't necessarily know what they're teaching. They're just hearing from other people.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of credit given to people who've been in the industry a long time and have been very successful.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, sometimes those people who've been in the industry a very long time have not evolved.
Right.
They've decided that this is how they grew having home parties, and that's what works. And these are the strategies that work. And it's just like, sometimes there's just this, I think at the tippy top, there is just a resistance to change.
Right. Right. So no question someone would probably want to know is, if it's not home parties, where are you seeing, when you're coaching your women, where are you seeing the bulk of the sales coming in? Is it from Instagram? Is it from Facebook?
Yeah.
Is it social media? Is it email marketing? Because email marketing was not taught to me when I was in direct selling. Like we have a company newsletter that went out, and we tried to personalize it and all of that, but having your own email list and your own email marketing, it's foreign. It's still foreign to a lot of people, but it is very effective if you're doing it the right way, just like anything else. So
I think email marketing for sure.
Okay.
Sorry. When you're doing it the right way, meaning like you have a way to build your list, get more leads, then you nurture them and you convert them into customers. That can all be done through email. And trust me when I say that, because I remember being like, what email? I don't even open my emails when I first learned about email marketing. And actually it's massive. It's massive. 25% average open rate is 25%. So think versus social media, where it's like 3 to 5% of people that you follow, you see your posts. That's kind of huge. I also think there is kind of a way that people are doing it now with like affiliate links. So if you think about back in the day, we did things like catalog parties, right? Where people would take a couple catalogs, they'd pass it around to their friends, and then they'd get orders and they'd get a percentage of that for free. Well, if you think about it from kind of an influencer perspective, and you hand out affiliate links. Now, some companies, you're not going to be able to do this. I get that. But if you're able to, like I just did, I am obsessed with Saint Makeup. I love Saint Makeup. So my Saint Makeup rep, if you will, she was like, Rachel, you should just, let me give you a link. And then anytime you talk about the makeup or whatever, then they buy it, you get credit towards your party, which is really, it wasn't a party. And I ended up getting like $500 worth of product. Right. So that's kind of a different spin on things. So it's like having a catalog party, but you're just calling it an affiliate link. I mean, obviously you have to check with your, the rules and all of that, but I think social media is another way as well. I think as long as you are adding value and you are sharing your product, you can sell your product. It just needs to be done in such a way that isn't annoying, right? Like where it's, so I think that's another way. I think there are just lots of different ways now, whereas it used to be kind of like you have a party and then you sell a lot, and you get new people on your team because, So it's just different.
And do you find, I promise we'll move on after this, that
I don't care. We can talk about this all day.
I know some of the, are you finding that, I feel like today's entrepreneur that's up and coming, she's not even a mom yet, maybe, but they're multi-passionate. Like they want to rep for lots of different brands, which is another shift, because you were like loyal, like you're a one or a Pampered Chef or a Mary Kay or whatever. And I feel like this next generation, I'm thinking about like my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, like they like to have their hands on lots of different things. They're multi-passionate. They don't have this allegiance to one company. And so we used to say you can't ride a horse with, am I saying that right? With two butts?
Oh, you're the wrong person.
Two horses and one butt. Sorry.
Yeah.
Two horses and one butt. This is comedy hour. But anyway, so I remember saying that to my dad.
I do too.
Get it together, girl. Pick one.
Yeah,
and you can't
agree. And I still think here's where it comes down to. It comes down to your messaging, right? So I have a student in my membership in my direct sales membership, who she reps for 2 companies, but her overall messaging is for mompreneurs. Or not even mompreneurs, just moms, right? Moms of young kids. And she's like, here are ways, and she has a blog. And so she's talking about how to survive with, 3 young kids and how all the things and her products fit into that, right? Here's your 10-minute makeup. Here's skincare that you can do on the go. It all fits in with her overall messaging. So will she, when you have your hands in all different, a few different companies, the chances of you ranking up to top leadership are going to be slimmer, but you have different, forms of, revenue coming in, which is good, different streams. So I think it just depends what you want. But I do think in order to do it the right way, you have to have what is your brand? What is your overall messaging? And it has to make sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. So good. This is so good. Okay. What are you most excited about right now in the season that you're in? It could be in your business. Like, what are you working on? Do you have any workshops coming up, or what are you most excited about that you can share with everybody?
Oh my gosh, so much. I mean, who doesn't love the fall? Right.
I'm not a pumpkin spice latte girl though. Are you? I'm not a pumpkin spice.
I don't know. Okay. I just like the smell of pumpkin, like pumpkin spice in my candles. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's sometimes not even that, but I just love the fall. Yeah. So a couple of things are happening. Actually, I am part of the ultimate holiday sales workshop. We start next week, and it's just like a workshop, just the different kind of teaching you how to get ready for the holidays, which, as we all know, is so important because the holidays are the highest selling season for most people in direct sales. And then, I'm just leaning into my Wealth and Worth Legacy Builders right now. That's my membership for direct sellers who want to build their consistent and profitable businesses. And I'm really just so excited about what's happening in there. It's pretty cool. So that's what's on the agenda for the next few months.
And so if we put the links in the show notes, can anybody join? Is there an application process?
Wealth and Worth, the ultimate holiday workshop, yes. Wealth and Worth Legacy Builders is actually not open right now. Okay. But we will put links in there for sure. And then my podcast, I'm excited about my podcast, which is the Direct Sellers Podcast. So,
which I was on a long time ago. So that was fun. I think I think you were
one of the earlier episodes.
Yeah. Way early. I think I was one of my first podcast interviews as far as going on as a guest. So that was super fun. So thank you for the opportunity to do that. But we'll put all of that information where you can find her on social, Instagram, all the things, links
for sure
in the show notes for you. So if you had a chance to talk to all the mompreneurs of the world, and you only had just a few minutes, what's something you would want to make sure they understood?
You're worthy. It doesn't matter how successful you are. It doesn't matter how much work you put in. It doesn't matter if your kids are, successful or not. You are worthy, period, end of story. Okay. It doesn't matter. You are capable as well. So if you have a desire and you have a dream, you want to build something, you are 100% capable. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. There just aren't. You absolutely are capable. So you're worthy, period. And you are capable, period. So remember that, because it is so important. We forget that. We find ourselves lost in our children, lost in all the things that we have to do. And we feel sometimes less than, but you're not. You're worthy just because you're you.
Preach. Come on. That's good. So good. All right. Rapid fire. Just some of your favorite things. What's your favorite quote? Do you have a quote or a mantra that you're you live by? Or you love, or on your days when you're I'm not feeling it today, you can always.
You know what? I always grew up with that. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And so that's probably my fallback. Yep. Always.
What's your favorite resource or app that you're using right now for your business?
Instagram.
And what was one more thing? What do you do just for Rachel? What's something fun that you do that's just for you?
I would have to say, obviously nails, getting your, all the
nails and lashes,
fancy stuff. Yeah. But also I think just allowing myself space to just be by myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. Love it. And do you read? Are you a reader?
I'm a reader, and I read fiction. I've always say, I'm going to write a book that is how I became a millionaire, binging Netflix and drinking Diet Coke because, like in the online industry, at least it's like, oh my gosh, like, you can't, those millionaires, they're not binging Netflix, they're working. And I'm like, that is such hustle culture. No, I'm going to binge, but I'm also going to read. And I love like mysteries. Give me a romance with some mystery involved. I'm good.
Do you have a favorite author? Who's your favorite author for fiction? Because I
don't have a favorite author.
Okay.
No, I don't. I'm like, whoever has a good book, I will read. Right. So
cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, this was super fun. Thank you for
yes.
here. I think there was lots of great wisdom and nuggets, and of course, comedy. There's always humor when you're involved. I love that.
Wow.
If you ever have a chance to go to an event where she's emceeing, y'all, it's hysterical. But she'll put you in your place, but she'll also keep you laughing. So I love that.
I love that.
Yeah,
Thanks.
You do. I enjoyed it. So thank you so much for being on the show.
You're so
and we'll put all of our information again for all of you. You might want to go back and listen to this again because there's lots of good nuggets there in the middle as well. But thank you so much for being on the show. And
thank you.
Yeah, I will catch y'all on the next episode. Well, that's a wrap, friends, for this week's episode of the Mompreneur Life Remixed podcast. Thank you so much for listening and for following the show. It means so much to me. And listen, friend, sharing is caring. So if you loved this episode and thought of some fellow mompreneurs who could benefit, send them the link. Share this episode or take a screenshot and head on over to Instagram and share and tag me at Martine31Williams. We are connected on Instagram, right? It's where you will get all the fun behind the scenes of my life and business as a mompreneur. Until next time, know that I am believing in you always.